Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to Thirsty Soul. Thank you for watching this video today. I'd like to talk about the topic of Islam and feminism and my viewpoints on it, Islam and women's rights, things of that nature. I always have so many debates with people about this topic because every single person has a different viewpoint on it. Every person has a different perspective, and I just want to share my perspective and learn about other people's perspectives as well. One of the first things I got when I started practicing was, you can't be a feminist anymore, you can't be an advocate of women's rights anymore. Basically, you're joining the religion of, that abolishes women's rights, that doesn't give you a right to do anything. And I think there does seem to be this huge mismatch, I think partially because of the media portrayal of Muslim women, as well as actually what some Muslim men do, and unfortunately the way a lot of Muslim men carry themselves, you would think that actually this is a religion that does not advocate women's rights. And on the flip side, I think feminism and the connotations that come with that word is also stigmatized a bit. I think if you say, oh, I'm a feminist, I even have non-Muslim friends that wouldn't want to call themselves a feminist because they feel like that means you have to hate men and burn your bra and, and all that stuff, the extreme kind of feminism. So, as a Muslim woman then coming in and saying, I'm a feminist, it's like, why do you want to associate yourself with that word? It's just such a powerful word, and it really irks some people, and so it always makes me think, where is the middle ground, between Islam and feminism, really. But as a Muslim woman, I personally believe that Islam has given women their rights. But I also acknowledge that society and Muslim societies don't necessarily live up to that, to the rights that Allah gives women in the Quran and Sunnah. Sunnah are the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So that then creates a huge mismatch where a lot of people, they will see, I don't know, let's say some girl in Afghanistan being tortured or being married off at a really, really young age, being forced marriage, things like that, honor killings, shame incidences, and people say, well, is it Islam? When actually, if you look at that region, in Asia, Hindus, Sikhs and Muslims participate in these kind of honor killings, and even in the Arab world, Arab Christians also participate in this. So this is not a Muslim thing, but it's always portrayed as a Muslim thing, because I'm from Nigeria. And in Nigeria, there's not really anything like honor-based killings and shaming, even in the Muslim regions of Nigeria. I'm not saying women don't get the brunt of things, but there isn't this concept of shame. So it's really quite interesting that, I guess, that comes into the picture and people equate Islam with, women being maltreated. And just a couple of examples of the rights that Islam gives women. I mean, in the Quran it talks about, in pre-Arabian Mecca, women were young girls would be buried because, women were seen as basically burdens, just as in some parts of India this still happens. Allah actually sent a verse down like, these girls, they're going to ask you on the Day of Judgment, what sin did I commit, So the whole thing of a boy child being more valuable than a girl child, there is no such thing. And I think there's even a hadith where it says if you raise like 4 daughters really well, you will get Jannah or something like that, you will get paradise. So there is no such thing, again, in Islamic literature. Other examples, let me think. You have the whole thing about in the surah to Mujadala, is it Mujadala or Mujadila? Where this woman is complaining about her husband who keeps her divorcing, and Allah actually says, you cannot do this. If you do this again, you have to free a certain amount of slaves or fast for a certain amount of days. And Allah is literally talking to that woman's request and basically answering her question that she asked the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So it shows that women's, the injustices that women face in society, Allah does care about these injustices and has actually revealed ayahs and signs just about the injustice that women face in a marriage, for instance. And there's so many more examples. The Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu himself, he married Khadija radiallahu anha, who was 15 years older than him, who was even his boss. She had her own business. You know, people just don't hear about stuff like this because it's never portrayed. You know, always the opposite side. When people hear about the marriages of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, all they hear about is Aisha and how he got married to this really young girl. No one talks about how he was married to Khadija for, 15 years? And he didn't, you know, he was just married to her and all his children came from her. Nobody talks about that. So I think it's very frustrating as a Muslim woman when you only hear one perspective. Even the first university in the world was, I think, in Morocco, and it was a Muslim woman who opened it. Again, we just don't hear about these things. We don't hear anything about this. And you know, when you think about the Western notion of feminism, to me, I could completely understand where it came from. Because if you look at the position of women in like the 18th century, 19th century, women couldn't vote, they couldn't have inheritance, they couldn't work, they couldn't do so many things. And they, you know, I do believe that they rightly fought for those things. Obviously, the nature of feminism has changed now. And I think now it's more associated with, if you're free, you have to, you know, why should you cover and why should you do this? And, you know, you cannot be free, quote unquote, and cover at the same time. They're contradictory. If you're proud of your body, you have to, you know, you have to show your body. And that's why things like the niqab, bikinis, more recently, have turned into such a big issue. And it's like, no, these women cannot choose to cover their bodies, you know. Actually, yes, they can. Maybe I don't want to show my boobs to the whole world. Why do I not have a choice? You know, there's not only one way to be free. And the most ironic thing is, I was speaking to one of my revert friends the other day, and I was saying, you know, as much as Islam is portrayed in this negative light, the ironic thing is that there are more female white reverts than any other group. You would think the fact that people always say, you know, these men are going to get all these virgins in heaven, men can have 4 wives, that it's Western men that will be flocking to this religion, but actually it's Western women that flock to Islam. So there's obviously something powerful in a woman being able to control her sexuality, in a woman being able to control who she shows her body to, and also other aspects of Islam that do appeal to some people. But I feel personally that people always kind of want to find like a reason. Like if I meet somebody, some people, and you know they see me, they'll think automatically, okay, I have to be married, or my dad has to be telling me to wear hijab. They cannot believe that you would choose to wear hijab out of your own choice. It's like something must be wrong with you. Why would you choose to cover yourself? As if basically to be a woman, or to be a happy woman, you have to go out there and seek male attention. Like the two things are basically compatible. People seem very threatened that you can be confident covering your body and you choose not to show your body, and there is nobody telling you what to do. So sometimes I feel like people try to prove their, you know, their biases. You know, they see you and they automatically assume a certain role of you, and then when they find out that actually there is no one forcing you and you're doing it, it's kind of like, really? Is there something wrong with you? Are you okay? You know, I always get that kind of feeling. So yeah, like I think for me personally, I have no problem describing myself as a feminist. It doesn't mean that, you know, I have to adhere to the Western notion of feminism, but it does mean that I do believe very strongly in women's rights, and I do believe that a woman has a right to her voice and has a right to do a lot of things in society. And you know, in the Muslim world, a lot of people do get a bit, you know, funny when you describe yourself as a feminist, because they automatically assume that you think that you need like Western civilization to kind of save you from things. But it's not about that. It's about the fact that we as Muslims, I think we have to acknowledge that in our own world, a lot of women are being deprived of their rights because of us, not because of what Islam says, but because of us. And I think more women need to speak out against this. And again, there's so many amazing Muslim women around now. Yasmin Mujahid, there's Fatima Umar, who makes I think she has a business for Muslim women in terms of marriage, in terms of divorces, all these problems. She's like a life coach. There's so many other Muslim women out here that are doing so many amazing things, but again, we just don't hear about them in the media, and even sometimes in the Muslim world we don't hear about them. So we have to ask ourselves, why is this happening? And we need more Muslim women, in my opinion, to bring their voices out to society. So thank you so much for listening to me today, and please subscribe and tell me your opinions about women's rights in Islam. Bye.